Hey guys, how's it going? This is actually an add-on to a video that I'm in the middle of making right now, but I'm going to make a separate video on this, just to talk about this a little bit. I'm taking the Chevy Malibu apart that I'm doing a water pump on. It's a 2.4 liter, and they tell you to remove the exhaust manifold. I was thinking I didn't have to. I got a funny feeling you don't necessarily have to. However, I did, and the reason I did was because I noticed it was cracked. Let me show you what I got. So here is the manifold here. Okay, and as you see, it's cracked. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to bring that to the customer's attention. Maybe they're going to want to change it. So at this point, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to take the manifold off. May as well. So remember me telling you about the small block Chevy exhaust manifolds, how sometimes they get warped and stuff like that? Well, this one did, and it's a flange style, but it's a flange that has slits in it to allow it to expand and contract and stuff like that. Not all of them have that. The LS based motors, you know, the 4.8, 5.3, 6 liter, 6.2, they have a flange. However, because it's a solid piece, they have a tendency to bow. It's another reason that the bolts break. But let me show you something here. So now, if you look, see that flange? It's supposed to have a split in it like that. It closed up. This thing warped so bad that it closed that up. So once I took the bolt out and then took all the other, or took all the bolts out, that's what happened. It actually closed itself back up. So now I definitely got to replace the manifold because I ain't fixing that, because of that. Now, one other thing, a crack in an exhaust manifold like this, where you don't see carbon. Now, this thing is leaking. It's cracked all the way through. If I shine a light on the other side, I wonder if I could see daylight. I probably could. But we know it's cracked all the way through. Actually, let me get a flashlight. And there you go. You can actually see me moving the flashlight? I got a flashlight on the other side there. But if you look close, yeah, see that? So it's cracked all the way through. So why don't you see carbon? Why don't you see carbon on the exhaust manifold? Well, because it's sucking air. It's sucking air into the exhaust system. Okay, so what does that do? The O2 sensor's right here. See that? It's making this thing run super lean, and then it's adding fuel to it, because now you got oxygen before the O2. It's adding fuel to it. So it's making the situation even worse. Look at this manifold. It looks like somebody heated this up with a torch. Now, even more interesting, let me show you this. Once I got this out, all of a sudden I looked and I paid attention. Here's the O2 sensor. That thing had to be cherry red for a while, like blowtorch red. This O2 sensor is destroyed. How this thing does not have a check engine light is beyond me. How it doesn't have issues, drivability issues that she's complaining about is beyond me. An exhaust leak like this, like a lot of times, you certainly know that the exhaust system is not restricted, because if it was restricted at all anywhere, like it had back pressure, you would see carbon coming out of that crack, but you don't. So that means it's sucking air. You're sucking in air, you're adding oxygen. Adding oxygen, you're making a lean condition. That O2 sensor is reading a lean condition. The computer is going to add fuel. And you add fuel, you're making the situation even worse. So I am amazed that this thing didn't have a check engine light. I guess a computer must have been compensating just enough to make it so it wasn't an issue. I don't know. But an exhaust manifold, believe it or not, is available from the aftermarket. My local parts store has it in stock. So it's a $150 manifold. Not a big deal. I'm assuming the oxygen sensor is probably another $75. Maybe it's cheaper. I don't know. I especially do not buy cheap O2 sensors. I have put O2 sensors in cars that have caused, especially a V motor or a twin bank motor. It could be a flat, doesn't matter. But where you have an oxygen sensor for each bank, and I've had misfires on one side. I made a video on it. You can have misfires on one side caused by an O2 sensor. I remember years ago, a shop I moonlighted at, they had a Dodge Durango with a 4.7 that came in, and one of the guys put an O2 sensor in for whatever reason. The customer took it. About 6 weeks later, they came back. misfire on, it was bank 1 on that vehicle. Misfire on bank 1. Misfires on bank 1. And I remember the guy was messing around with it, and it was like cylinders 1 and 3 or whatever. So I think they put plugs in it, they put coils in it, stuff like that. Never fixed the issue. Like it would be fine for a little while. But then as you let it sit there and idle, after a while, all of a sudden it would start misfiring, and you could feel it. So eventually it went to me, because the other guy, he couldn't figure it out. You know, no fault of his own. He wasn't that experienced or whatever. He just didn't know enough, and which is fine. I mean, not everybody's going to know everything. So it eventually wound up with me, and of course, I was unsure at the time, so I'm looking at it, and that's when I realized, when I was watching, the fuel trims were going lean on one side. And when it was going lean, it was trying to compensate and everything else. That one also wasn't setting lean codes. I've also seen it go the other way and set rich codes. But this was setting lean codes, so it was adding fuel where it didn't need it. So technically, it was flooding out. You know, so you had cylinders, you know, overfueled, and it was creating misfires on a one bank. So I figured that out. We wound up putting an O2 sensor in, and it solved the problem. But it was because the shop had installed at the time of, you know, a CarQuest O2 sensor, and this was back in like around 2008, 9, 10, something like that. CarQuest has come a long way. Back then, if you installed anything electronic from CarQuest, usually we would buy 3 or 4 to get one that actually worked. But their parts have come a long way. They make a very decent product now. No, they don't endorse me or anything like that. I'm just telling you, now they do make a pretty decent product. We've had a run of bad parts, especially electrical, that we get from the other auto parts stores, but if we get them from Advanced, it seems to be a much better piece. Yes, it's more money, but it seems to be a better piece. So, but anyway, basically, I just wanted to point this out, that a lean condition, I mean, it's so lean, it's cherrying this exhaust manifold. Exhaust manifold distorted, like the small blocks do. But this one actually distorted so bad, it cracked and everything else. I mean, that's pretty impressive. And it's pretty impressive what it did to the O2 sensor, too. But anyway, so I thought I'd show you that. I gotta get a manifold for this thing tomorrow and an O2 sensor. I'm gonna have to just let her know that we're gonna be doing both. I did call her about the exhaust manifold. I hadn't even looked at the O2 sensor at that point in time. But I did call her about the exhaust manifold, and she says, you know, go ahead, you got it apart, go ahead and do whatever you got to do. And technically, taking the exhaust manifold off is part of the labor in doing the water pump on this Malibu. I don't know if I said that in the beginning, I'm doing a water pump on it. So this is all part of the labor, so it's just a parts price. It's not extra labor involved. You know, can you do it without taking the manifold off? Yes. You can do the job without doing that. But this is part of the labor. So don't be that person where, yes, you could sneak it out and then you charge extra for doing this. That's not the right thing to do. Do the right thing. Always do the right thing. You'll sleep better at night, trust me. So, and there's going to be no labor in doing the O2 sensor because I got to take the O2 sensor out to do the manifold, which is part of the initial job. But so anyway, like I said, it's just a parts thing. But yeah, so I thought that was kind of interesting. I thought you'd want to see that. Anyway, so if you're getting something out of my videos, hit that like button. If you could, please subscribe. Tell your friends to subscribe. I said it. Yay! I can never say it twice. But yeah, anyway, that's it. All right, guys. You have a great night. Keep wrenching.